Welcome to the most important secret to spiritual holistic coaching and healing. Hello, I'm Philip Mountrose with my wonderful wife and partner, Jane.
Hello.
And this will be a journey into the mysteries. And the mystery and the secrets will be revealed tonight. And
Maybe not all of them.
not all of them, but a pretty big one. And we've been in the holistic spiritual field, healing coaching field for about 3 decades now, and we've discovered quite a bit, um, what works, what doesn't work so well. We do teach the things that work the best, and some of them we've developed ourselves where there's gaps or needs or our own innovations, and we'll share some of that with you today. So you're in the right place if you're here live listening to us, or a replay. And if you're looking for a deep, reliable spiritual growth methods that can accelerate your evolution, if you're looking for a more meaningful life, maybe you're looking for a new career or you want to enhance the career you have with more skills and knowledge. Maybe you're looking for a holistic, spiritually based program. So our mission at Awakenings Institute, our nonprofit organization, uh, is to help people fulfill their purpose. And we use techniques like holistic EFT, emotional freedom techniques, as well as spiritual kinesiology, hypnotherapy, NLP coaching, quite a few. Uh, and we're really interested in the most direct, effective ways to evolve. Uh, and to help us understand why we're here, who we are, what really makes us tick. And the information like we're sharing today, the kind of in-depth information and targeted information, uh, actually is not that easy to find or to discern. It's sort of out there in bits and pieces, but not so directly and prioritized and highlighted. So we're going to focus tonight on the most important secret or resource to spiritual holistic coaching and healing. And we're also going to include 5 key benefits to learning about this, and a short aliveness exercise and a demonstration of a holistic demonstration that will help you understand and experience what we're talking about. So, Jane, do you want to share a little bit about why coaching and healing are so popular, but rarely they're rarely prioritized or done?
Or combined. Yeah. Um, yeah, we started out actually, it was interesting talking to Lisa before we actually started the the talk. She was talking about her journey and we had a journey that was similar, you might say, in the this was many decades ago in the late 1980s. I was an architect and Philip was an educator, and we had actually a pretty good life. We had the house, the cars. We didn't have children, but we had these kinds of beings. We had 2 dogs, and we had the vacations, Hawaii, everything. Just everything seemed good, except that we weren't enjoying life. And I actually was getting to a point where my energy was waning, and I didn't know how to describe it, but I had this sense that my soul was dying. That was what I felt. And I didn't know where to go with it. But what happened, Philip was getting burned out in his work too. So we decided we needed some healing. So that is really where we started in this part of our journey. We were involved actually in spiritual things before that, though, too. Anyhow, so we started to explore spiritual healing, hypnotherapy, NLP, Reiki, which I think is so wonderful for people who are interested in spiritual energy, because when that it really changed things for me, because when I realized I can feel this and I can actually help to shift energy, and that was a revelation. I was an architect, very left brain. Anyhow, the thing about the combinations is we were very devoted to healing. And we actually had an opportunity within the next few years to start teaching a hypnotherapy program, which we really enjoyed doing, and it evolved over time into what we have today. But the point being that we did a lot of healing work and realized at a certain point that healing without coaching, in other words, without having an action plan afterwards, is limited. It's kind of like some people think, well, I had this fear and now it's gone, I'm done. Well, actually, the fact that it's gone, you have changed your whole reality. So that's where the real opportunity is. That's where the opportunity lies to go deeper and to reflect on, well, if I don't have this fear anymore, what is possible for me now? And what kind of actions do I want to take to realize my full potential? So that's healing. If you look at healing and then how coaching came for us, recognizing the limitation in just the one side, which is the more feminine side, really, of you could say self-improvement or personal growth or spiritual growth. It's the more internally oriented, intuitive, open, and like Reiki, just very fluid kind of a thing. On the other side, the coaching, many people are attracted to coaching because they want to get things done. And so the coaches have evolved, and there are a lot of coaching programs that don't go much into the healing aspect, or if they do, it's in a very superficial way. So it's rare to have them both combined in a way that's very strong, where actually we have a strong feminine approach and a strong masculine approach, the masculine being the action and the will and the drive to actually make something happen. I think one of the important parts of it that people don't recognize, because we're in such a masculine oriented society, is that it really starts with the feminine. It starts with reaching into that place of truth within ourselves to decide intuitively what it is that we want. What is the dream? What is the thing? If, for instance, like me, your energy is waning and you want to feel more alive, what is it that's going to make you feel more alive? And if you don't have the dream in place, you can have a lot of action and go in the wrong direction, because there is an aspect of you, your soul, that knows what the plan is. And if you're not following the plan, a lot of people spin their wheels and they end up going in circles and on detours. And I think we've all been there, probably to some degree. But we want to minimize it by having a good understanding of where that life is for us, where we really want to go, and then bring the action to it. So that is a really important combination. And when you actually have it together, it's like everything, you're running on all cylinders, you could say. Everything is running in a very fluid and synchronous way, that where you feel also that the action comes easily. Some coaching programs are, I'm going to fight my way through this. You fight your way through the fear rather than clearing the fear, so that there is no fear and you just feel like you can move forward easily. We're the ones, we'd prefer to use that second approach, where you just move together or move forward easily, and really you could say, in sync with the reason why you're here. So it's a very deep and a wonderful way to approach, I think, life. It's like a marriage made in heaven, because if you can find those things that make you feel most alive, and we'll do a little exercise with this in a bit too, it can change everything. And that brings us to that most important secret that we were talking about, which also before we before we got to the point where we started actually taking the courses I mentioned, we were searching for our own guidance. We had been in a spiritual organization where the leader had all the truth and everybody was supposed to just follow the leader. And there are still organizations like that where people are being told that they have to follow this other truth because they don't know. They're not wise enough to know what's right for them, when actually we do know. And that's the most profound secret, I think, an important secret to recognize is that we have a powerful presence in the center of our being, in our heart, a loving presence of the heart and soul that plays a key role, an essential role if we really are wanting to move forward spiritually, and in a holistic way. It plays a key role in the quality of our lives. So that's the secret.
And
And that's what we discovered when we learned how to connect with that truth in our hearts. It changed everything for us.
and I just wanted to share this little diagram, which is nice for the coaching healing, the masculine, feminine, and it is a yin yang, so you need them both, and they overlap.
Right.
I was thinking that with the support, there's a support of coaches, sort of the cheerleader support, but then the healer, the healing component is very nurturing and helping you, when you need consoling. So you need both support. Support is huge, which is often missing with holistic people, that they're kind of out in the wilderness trying to do it all alone. The coaching is more action oriented, just as Jane mentioned some of these points, more motivational and energizing, and also more left brain linear, figuring it out, strategizing, marking progress, and the healing part. And it's again rare to find both together in a program, and you need them both because if you're doing all the, hey, I've got all my goals, I'm going forward, but then you're stuck. I have this fear, I have this doubt, I have this self-deprecation, I have this victimhood. What do? Well, you
Yeah,
just go
I can't
forward.
make myself do it,
You just push
procrastinating.
yourself
Right.
through it. You don't worry about it. You can, but you're not dealing with, you're throwing it under the rug, you're covering it over, you're not addressing it. That's not what your soul plan is here to do, to rah-rah you through some challenge. You came here to face and learn and grow and transform, but how do you do it? And that's where the healing component works so wonderfully. Feminine, visionary, nurturing, compassionate, intuitive, developing your intuitive sense, subtle perceptions, and connecting, relational, flowing. So that takes us to this most important secret to spiritual holistic coaching and healing. And it's something that everyone knows, certainly listening to this, and yet it's very underrated, undervalued, and it's sort of hiding in plain sight. Uh, and holistic people know that this coming from the heart, and that's what we're talking about, which is the gateway to the soul. Uh, it's often sort of given a nod and a wink and acknowledgement, but there's a lot just at the more the knowledge level, uh, and not really a deeper understanding or integrating into your being, not a living, sustainable, breathing way of living from your soul. Is this what your soul is guiding you? Are you fulfilling your soul's purpose and mission? What is that? And all of it is knowable. It's there in the background, probably for everyone. It might be pretty murky and unconscious for most people, but for certainly people who are watching us now, it's important and probably primary importance, very important. And as Jane was mentioning in our story, back in the 1980s, there wasn't that much available to study and learn these things like there is today in the internet, even though a lot of it doesn't really get deep to the quote heart of the matter. Um, um, but in the 1980s, there were the wisdom traditions, which are still wonderful, uh, and traditional religions and Egyptian and uh, different cultures. A lot of wisdom there, but some of that's sort of indirect and not particularly updated. And Jane and I, we met in a Gurdjieff Ouspensky, an esoteric school for studying principles with a group. And there was a small group, and there was some wonderful experiences and profound knowledge, but it was sort of uh, insufficient after a while because this was follow the leader again. We really weren't able to embrace and directly connect with our own soul. It's almost like you have to go through the guru to connect with your own deeper wisdom and soul and God and universe and oneness.
Nobody, when we were there, nobody actually was able to get to that point.
Yeah, it's kind of tough when everyone, is kind of going up the mountain and falling back down and having to be pushed up. And hey, we'll push you up again. You'll get there one of these days, or one of these lifetimes. And going further into just where we are as a culture and this most important secret, why it's so underrated, undervalued, obscured. Um, of course, meditation has become pretty popularized now in the culture, which is great. Many, the number of people meditating now is far about 20-fold more than it has been in history. There have been statistics. Just it's great, and that is wonderful, and they're big steps forward. And some of the things in meditation are truly soulful and transformative. However, there are limitations, and we sometimes talk to people who do meditation like a chore, like almost like doing your exercises, because I know I have to do exercise. I don't like it, but I'll do it. And that's not a particularly soulful experience then. Or some of the challenges with being meditating is that you might be trying to quote quiet your mind, which may be useful in some cases, but you may actually be receiving communications from your soul or higher wisdom, and you're trying to shut it out. Hey, this would be a good idea for you to do this. You should pursue. Hey, quiet. I forget that. I'm trying to be.
I can't listen to you now.
Yeah, come back. Don't get out of here. And for some people, it's very stressful because again, the feminine part, the shadows, the blockages come up, the fears, and some people even have seriously mental challenges after a while with meditation because it's bringing up all these shadows and fears without knowing what to do with it. And just sitting with it is not enough. And for some people, it can be a kind of escapism. They do like to just sort of sit and be blissful by themselves, but it doesn't really translate into their life at all. And some people, it can be kind of challenging. We know some people who've just sort of lost everything following a guru and meditating and so forth, and their lives have been
tragically.
There's been some tragic stories. Not that those are extreme, but it makes a point. And for Jane and myself, we met as synchronicity would have it in the 1980s. Some wonderful teachers, Barry and Karen. And they sort of came out of the blue into our lives, and they taught us the beginning version of a soul centering, which we're going to do a version of that today. We've developed others as well, and that shifted everything. Because when you connect with your soul, know that and practice it, it permeates everything, and it actually moves you forward on your evolutionary journey. And we teach in our program about the stages. As you become more soul connected, there's more light, energy, and wisdom to guide you, and you evolve, which makes sense and is true. And that's part of our life, and learning that and sharing that and going deeper into that. Jane, did you want to add anything, or shall we go on to the exercise?
Well, just one thing I would want to say about it is, since that happened, when I started doing the thing that was called soul centering, and we still call soul centering, my life changed dramatically, almost immediately. I didn't want to get up in the morning. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to live for.
Prior to it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then when I started connecting with the truth in my heart, everything changed. I couldn't wait to get up in the morning. I had to make extra time to do the soul centering. But it helped me. It helped me to gain a completely different perspective on myself, who I am. We're all magnificent spiritual beings. A lot of courses don't teach you that. But it is really the most important thing, is that we're here to fully embrace ourselves, to transcend the illusion that we're limited, to transcend the illusions that there's not much possible for us. And of course, aliveness is a good measurement of it. Over the years, this is something we didn't think of right away, and it isn't something anyone taught us. But we were thinking, well, how can we provide a way to measure if a person's on the right track or not? Well, if you're pursuing the things that make you feel most alive, then you're pursuing the things that are soulful for you. And Philip, can we switch back to the other view? Um, it's not a coincidence. If you know about the energy system and the heart, there are the chakras and the ruling glands for all the chakras. The heart chakra and the heart center, you could say, the gland there is the thymus gland, which is the seat of our aliveness. And when we're doing the things that aren't really right for us, our aliveness goes down. It's kind of like, oh, life, what drudgery this is. And then if we can embrace the greatness in ourselves, just the gifts, the fact that we each of us has gifts and that we're here for a reason, and start moving in that direction, then we feel more alive and we want to get up in the morning again. So I'm going to do this little exercise that we develop as a way to communicate the relevance of that. Philip, can you go back to the other view, please? And I was wondering, Gretchen, would you be willing to be just to kind of go along with this with me, and then everybody else can follow too with something of their own. But it's sometimes helpful to have something that you're focused on so that you can get a sense of it. And this is a very simple thing. Most everything we do, we start with relaxing and breathing a little bit. So just if you want, you can close your eyes if you're in a safe place for doing that. And just take a few nice, loving breaths. That helps to bring your energy more into your body. And then just open to that love in your heart. And from that kind of more soulful perspective, opening to what's in your heart, it's like there are sayings within the consensus reality, like I have to follow my heart, my heart knows. Um, just focus for a moment on something that's exciting and meaningful to you when you focus on it in from that perspective of your heart. Something maybe that's exciting that you'd want to be or do, but isn't quite happening yet. That is meaningful to you, and just imagine that it's in your reality now. Something that would be really enlivening to you. Can you think of something like that, Gretchen?
Yes.
You can share it if you want or not. Do you have a preference?
What excites me is what I'm looking forward to is teaching and teaching spiritual topics like this.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it feels really exciting when I think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you then, and everybody just focusing on that thing, whatever it might be, feel that excitement in your body and the aliveness, and just invite that aliveness into every cell. Each of our cells actually has an intelligence and an energy too, and we want all of the cells to feel alive. And just notice from that perspective and with that focus, and Gretchen can be our example. If you focus on it on a scale of 1 to 10, how alive do you feel when you imagine that reality that you're creating?
And 11. Yeah, I feel like really warm all over. I got tingles when I thought about it. It was like really physical sensation. So yeah, it's definitely high on the scale.
Wonderful. And Gretchen, by the way, is already a wonderful teacher and spiritual guide for people. So she's taking her next steps, as we all are. Every one of us is always taking our next step. So from that perspective, then, how important is it to you to pursue that?
Oh, it's really important.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's definitely in my future. Um, but yeah, I mean, I still have some, a little bit of trepidation, and
Mm-hmm.
hesitancy, just because it is somewhat new, the direction I'm going. And but yeah, I mean, it feels really important to me to do it. It feels like it's meant to be part of my sole purpose.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And so then if you mentioned trepidation, and it's interesting because when we expand ourselves, it brings out also those fears, like, oh, what if it doesn't happen? What if, then somebody else comes in and says, you must be crazy. Why would you want to do that? Something like that. A lot of people retreat and they
Mm,
go back into a safe place, like settling for where they are now.
mm,
And so if you imagine then, Gretchen, if you just decide to give up on it, oh, this is not ever going to happen. I think, and my so and so, my my good friend is criticizing me and I'm feeling like this may be too risky. So if you were to give up on that dream, how much aliveness do you imagine yourself feeling on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say about a 1 or a 2. As soon as you started to suggest that, I felt like the whole scene just started to close
I
in.
could feel it too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it was
Goes,
just gonna just
"Wah."
go black. Yeah. And just
Mhm.
like an old television set that turns off, it just kind of blips out. So
Right,
yeah. Yeah.
right. So when you recognize that, then does that make it seem even more important to you, or
It
what does?
does. It does. Any kind of concerns or fears that I have feel a lot smaller
Right.
in the scheme of that, because that whole idea of being a teacher in this way is like a really bright, it's like a really bright scene, and it
Mm-hmm.
feels really alive and
Right.
electric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can't, I think it may sound like an exaggeration, but it can begin to feel almost like life or death.
Yeah, it was an interesting shift when you started to suggest not doing it. What would it
It's
be
kind of,
like?
oh,
I said everything just kind of got black and started to
right.
close off, and it just felt very it was kind of scary. It was
Yeah.
definitely not where I want to be. So
Right. Yeah. And you said something else that was interesting too, and I think very true. And this is a coaching tip you could say for anybody that you want to have that aliveness because it is that aliveness and that determination that's going to take you through the fears and take you through whatever the barriers are that are going to come up, and they will, no matter what you do. We're growing, so we're presented with challenges along the way. And if we don't understand the importance of something, if we don't understand it clearly enough, it's very easy as soon as that first thing comes up, it's like, oh no, this isn't going to work. I think I'll have to think this again. And a lot of people go from one thing to the next over and over and over, never pursuing anything that's meaningful to them for a long enough period of time for it to
Mhm.
manifest.
Mhm.
More people, I think, than people who actually follow through and understand. Because if you understand it really truly in your heart, how can you give up on it? And that's
Mhm.
that's the way I felt. It's like once we started doing the healing, it was I would do this no matter what. Whether we ever make any money at it or not, I'm doing this. I just love this. It makes me feel so alive. Thank you, Gretchen.
yeah,
Yeah, thanks,
thank you.
Gretchen. So should we go into the 5 ways of
Well, do
following
you
your
want to see
heart?
if anybody else has anything they want to share on that? I don't know if
If
we have
anyone
time.
does, they could just put their hands up or speak up, or we might connect with them.
If anybody
Yeah.
wants to share on that. I
Okay.
guess not. We have
Yeah.
we have a lot of unseen
Yeah.
people.
So we want to go into the 5 ways that if you regularly connect with your soul, as we began to share ways to do that with Jane and the aliveness, how it can benefit you quite a bit in your everyday life going forward. So the first of the 5 benefits, yeah, when we looked at this, we said, wow, it is amazing. Now I see why this is so amazing. It improves your health and promotes longevity. That's just number 1. So let me go into that for a minute. Um, As we mentioned, the heart is the gateway to the soul. So the heart is more than just a physical organ, and it also is a second brain, as science is showing. Um, and it opens you up to a world of feelings, and heart math calls it heart intelligence. So there's this tremendous heart. In fact, it's interesting how the heart has its own language, the language of the heart, and it can read other people, the nonverbal language. You have a sense of people's tones and emotions. You can really read, whether you even know the language that they're speaking. You have a sense from the heart where they're coming from. You can process that. And just to help your longevity and your health, the power of the heart electrically is 60 times greater in amplitude than the brain. And it permeates every cell in the body. And even more, the magnetic field from the heart that's generating in your heart right now is 5,000 times stronger than the brain's magnetic field. And if there's it can be detected a few feet away with a sensitive magnetometer. So there's physical evidences that it shows up. And of course, it shows up spiritually because it has this kind of universal feeling, the heart, connecting us with everything and everyone. That unity in diversity is the heart. And that's very beautiful. And also, the heart is a way of connecting you with like-minded people, right? So, like the people who are watching this, people who take our programs, and it's very wonderful to have that nurturing support. It also makes you compassionate toward everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And therefore, it's going to give your life more meaning. And if your life has more meaning, that's going to translate into the quality of your life, right? Physically and emotionally, spiritually. People who are more heart-centered, who practice spiritual things, their blood pressure is lower, their cognitive ability is sharper, they have less mental decline. There's things that have been shown that they've studied.
Yeah, and it does increase longevity.
Yes,
just simply
living longer. And
yeah.
you're probably going to make better choices with your diet, your sleep, taking care of yourself. If you're more soul-centered, you're more aware of you're valuing the life you have because you're living here for meaning and purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On the other hand, stress, which the majority of people, at least in the United States, report experiencing stress on a regular basis. And stress is debilitating. Actually, that shortens your life. It's associated with just about every major disease and can be related to conditions that are fatal, even. So, being in a more loving, joyful, grateful, fulfilling place is good on all levels.
Which takes us to the second benefit of being more heart-centered, soul-centered, learning how to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is something we realized also partly from our training and partly from our experience when we studied healing is that if you look at the holistic model of physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, the spiritual is the deepest one energetically in the energy field, and it is the most powerful energy for healing. So if you, for instance, follow the path of an allopathic doctor that's just looking at the physical body as a machine and moving pieces around and throwing drugs at it, you're not really touching any of the other aspects of the self, the emotions, the mind, your beliefs, and your spiritual sense of who you are, whether you do love and accept and embrace yourself or whether you judge yourself as being flawed and whatever. I remember earlier, I really believed that I was deeply flawed. And I haven't actually, I should look at exactly where that came from, that precise feeling. Some people might feel inadequate, like, oh, well, I'm just not I'm not old enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not educated enough. My mom says I'm not smart enough, whatever it is. Those are spiritual judgments that actually degrade our sense of self. And the heart, when you open, and that's one of the things I was saying, when I opened to the truth in my heart, everything changed so dramatically. And one part of it that was really important to me was that I could view myself from a completely different perspective. Because what we teach and what we did was we started connecting with the truth in our hearts every day and then journaling on it. And I would ask my heart, well, what is the truth about me and my value? And it had a completely different picture. Like, you're a wonderful person. It wasn't as well developed as the way that we express it now, but it was that you're a loving person. You're worthy of love. You're valued and you are valuable. Those are the kinds of messages that we get from the heart. The heart's not going to say, well, you did this when you were 5 years old. Do you remember when you took that other guy's toy? That was horrible. You're a bad person. That's not the heart.
No,
We all know, you can tell just by, I mean,
yeah,
it sounds stupid, but and silly, but it is true.
It is true. And you could say that all the junk programming that we have we've collected. I'm not good enough, or I'm not that kind of person, et cetera, et cetera. This won't work out.
Right.
That you need to clean out your hard drive, all the junk, in yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And recognize that the truth does lie within. And the more we listen to it, the stronger it becomes.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it's been more than 3 decades now. And we're just so grateful for the journey we've been on. Another thing that I think is amazing to me now is we're still learning and growing, just like everybody else. And this kind of, if a person is drawn to this as a profession, it's the greatest work around, I think. I can't imagine doing anything else. I was burned out as an architect after maybe 15 years or less, something like that. I don't know that I would ever get burned out on this. It just, every day is an amazing thing. I can't wait. I still can't wait to get up in the morning. I do get up early because I'm so excited about the day. So if you look at that compared to also not just a coaching, the coaching aspect, but what people consider to be a holistic approach. A lot of people think of holistic healing is about having the right diet and getting exercise and sleep and all those things, which are great. You need those. That's a foundation, but it's so much deeper and richer. It's the universe. It's everything about us, the magnificence of who we are. And it's all available. All of us have that wisdom within us. It's not some guru somewhere who can tell you. It's in your heart right now. I still think it's just the most amazing thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
and
we
we've
teach people
go
to
ahead.
become their own guru. That's what we like to do.
Right. And with our 1-year program, we've had people healed from all kinds of different conditions and physical conditions like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. And I remember one woman, she had chronic pain from a car accident, and by the end of the program, it was all gone. And just really a transformation on their perspective of who they are. I remember one woman who is actually a good friend of mine now, who lives close to where we live. She's also an artist, which I'm kind of an artist too. And she took our program years ago, and she told me, and it was years later, she told me, well, when I was going to take the program, I invited a few of my friends to join me because I thought, wow, this would be great if we all do it together. And none of them did. And she said, well, just recently I talked to them, and they were right where they were when I started the course. They were stuck still. And I have a whole new life, which she did. I think it was beneficial for her, both in her artwork and in having the healing practice that she developed. So it doesn't have to be one thing, because for each of us is bringing our own gifts and experiences to what we're doing. So it's what we do is unique to us. But it's just, to me, the most amazing thing.
Well, shall we go on to the next benefit?
Are there more?
There are more. There are 5.
Okay.
We're going to number 3. Connecting with the soul regularly activates inner guidance. What should I do? Is this right? Where do I go? Those kind of questions, which can really plague people and be pretty stressful, and just end up, when you don't know where you want to go, you end up somewhere else, as they say, right? And so this inner guidance, this true north, this compass that we all have, just knows and directs us without judging or dictating. It doesn't have an agenda, but it does align with your soul's plan, what you planned, remember, before you came here and the veil came down. And this soul awareness is aware of the big picture. It's aware of what's relative, what makes sense, what's a priority. And it'll help you heal, and as Jane was mentioning, and quickly recover from setbacks. And Jane and I just noticed, we were just thinking that if something bothers us, we may get a little angry or whatever, but we could quickly come back. We don't hold grudges. We're not still bothered, the next day or hours. It just sort of, it's there and we experience it, and maybe we're angry or disappointed, whatever, and we quickly go on. And that, I think, is that resilience from the soul, that deeper awareness, not taking things so personally, and it allows you to be on your hero's journey. In fact, sometimes these challenges, which can be recurrent and set up for us to learn, is what we're here to overcome. They're actually not a, quote, a problem or something, get out of here. It's like, what am I supposed to learn and grow? This is the challenge, my journey.
Right.
So it's not something depressing and deflating, but it's an opportunity for growth. We call it obstacles, from obstacles to opportunities for growing and learning.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is a transformation, really, of our perspective of ourselves from being victims of a reality that has control over us to being creators who have, you can't say we can control everything outside of ourselves, but we have command of our lives. And we are moving in a reality that is supporting us. Reality is working for us, not against us, and which is actually true. So many people view themselves as victims, as if these horrible things are happening to them. And if we believe that, of course, we're going to be shown more of it. But the actual truth is that life is happening for us. And when we're more in the flow with it, then we can experience life in a very different way. Which actually that's the next benefit. I guess
what do you know? Segue into benefit number 4.
Yeah. Which is, it changes our perspective on life. And as I mentioned, I don't consider it done. I'm still discovering things that are more miraculous and more wonderful than I ever could have imagined being even possible. It also, the way our program is very unique. We have 3 courses, and they have very specific purposes that address life's big questions. Our course is not just a bunch of techniques. It's like, now you're going to do this healing technique, and now we're going to do this other healing technique, and then we're going to do this coaching technique. It all revolves around the big picture of who we are, why we're here, and where we're going. The questions that are plaguing most of us most of the time that we don't even dare to ask. The course is designed to help us to make progress in all of those areas and have a good sense of them, who we are, why we're here, and where we're going. I know with new clients, a lot of times they start with so much, just a lot of confusion and frustration and anxiety, and it's hard to even tell exactly where to start. sometimes Philip and I both have systems that we use to help us to determine where to start with people. And it is interesting because the most common things actually that are, at least for me, and I think it's similar for Philip, the first one is that the person is not centered, because I'll take them to a place where they can be centered, and then everything is clear. It's like all of a sudden, oh, and we're going to do that actually here too in a little bit, which is really amazing. And of course, instead of feeling flawed and restricted and held back, we're in a reality that it's like our playground almost. Or of course, some of us are more playful, some of us are more serious, probably in our perspective, but it is a place that is here to help us to realize our dreams. And we are supported also from the higher realms. We go into that somewhat too in the course, inviting angels and enlightened masters to support us in our work, which is really just again another layer of miraculousness. And one of the things that we discovered, I think, doing the healing processes, especially, we do teach a lot of healing techniques. There are some that are very simple. Some go deeper for various reasons, because sometimes you have to go deeper to find out exactly what's happening. And I think also as we're evolving spiritually, we want to go deeper. We want to understand more about what's happening, what's making us tick. We realized in doing that, and one of the things that we use quite a bit in our work is imagery, and recognizing that that idea, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Because when you have an image of something, it's like it's richer than anything you could describe. And there's another idea is what you see is what you get. And when you look at the images we see in our minds, like people will say things like, oh, I feel like I'm a spinning top, I just can't stop. Or I feel like I'm dragging a ball and chain. Well, that's literally true in their reality. Those are images and symbols. So we draw a lot from the power of imagery. And one of the examples is a process we call the mud to mountaintop that we developed, where when you're in the fear or anxiety or whatever, it's like you're wallowing around in the mud. And then you can just imagine rising up to a lofty mountaintop. And we're going to do this together in just a minute. But even thinking about it, just imagine yourself rising out of the mud to a lofty mountaintop, just a glorious place with a 360-degree view of the world around you, and breathing that fresh air. That can just change everything. And I do that a lot with clients. It's one of the easiest ways to help to get people kind of to raise their vibration, and then opening to the love and the connectedness in their heart. That's, like I said, we're going to be doing that together. The results are tremendous. That's a very healing thing to do just on its own. And of course, we use imagery in other ways, and we have other techniques too. But I use imagery a lot, and it is the images that come up for people. If you're in a certain state and you imagine, well, if I could see this as a landscape, this state, like I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling fearful, I'm feeling alone. Well, if you imagine that inner world as a landscape, what would it look like? It's like I'm on this rocky plain and I can't go anywhere. I can't move. The story is each one is different, and they're always different, but so powerful.
And the fifth benefit for being more soul-centered, connecting with your heart, which, in case you haven't noticed, is very different from the mainstream. They don't use words like being heart-centered. If you turn on the news, you don't hear that.
Oh,
But
that would be nice,
we're
huh?
going in that direction, and the more of us that can be in our heart, the more that ripples out into society, and it certainly will make a difference in our life and people around us, which is the idea of this.
Yeah, and that's our mission with Awakenings Institute, to create a more loving world. And we do that by supporting other people in opening more to love, and then they share it with other people. So that's how it changes.
Feeling the love, passing it on. So that fifth benefit is providing more energy and inspiration. As Jane said, waking up feeling excited and feeling connected rather than sort of depressed or deflated or have to kind of feelings. And it's that reason for living, that excitement for going forward, which of course, benefit number one, longevity and health. You have a lot more energy, and you're more into what's sometimes called a flow state. And even a shared flow with the other members of the, if you're taking a program like ours, you're in this joint flow state where people are heart-centered, mutually awakening in a we space. So it's really pretty profound there. And just generally in your life, the flow state is marked by being more engaged, challenged, but not too much. But like your time is standing still, it's timeless. And people often associate it with being sports and in the zone, or it could be art, doing an artistic work or dance or painting or writing. And a lot of times in thinking or conversing, you're having these aha insights coming to you. And when you're teaching, when we're teaching in our program and so forth, we sometimes get in these kind of rants and these shared flow states, and bigger pictures and things can kind of come in that were outside of our awareness. And Abraham Maslow, the transpersonal psychologist with the pyramid of needs, some of you may know, he called the highest need was self-actualizing, and above that he even put self-transcendence. And he called that being in a state much of the time or exuding wholehearted love. Wholehearted love. I like that. In many ways. So you're in this more wholehearted love state, which brings us back to that aliveness exercise Jane did a few minutes ago. What makes you alive? What makes you come alive? What is it? What is it you want to do? And those things you want to do are skills and gifts you have or want to develop. That's enjoyment. It's not work, it's not drudgery, it's joyful, it's blissful, it's uplifting, and will help you and other people, and it helps other people as well quite a bit altruistically. Jane, did you want to add anything before we do a demo?
I feel I'm ready.
So we
I'm
wanted
feeling
to give
very
you
alive now.
feeling alive, coming alive. It's alive. We're alive.
Yeah.
And we wanted to give you another example of how this works practically. And Jane is going to lead. Gretchen volunteered to be a participant to connect with her soul, which she could do at any time, but thank you for sharing it with us. Jane?
Yeah. I was thinking we could probably pick up where we left off.
Yes, it sounds like that's a good
idea. Talking about, if that's okay with you, Gretchen.
That's fine.
And for everybody else, you can follow along too, and have your own process if you feel like it. Gretchen mentioned the excitement of wanting to move ahead, becoming I think playing an even larger role as a teacher. I know you're playing a role as a teacher already. And you mentioned that there was some trepidation, and I don't know if you'd say there's anything else, but if you were to just imagine starting out kind of on the low end of the range of things that come up when you think of that, is trepidation kind of one of the main things, or?
Yeah, I feel like there's some there's still, it's like a fear of the unknown, just a little bit though. It's not monstrous or anything, but there is still some fear of the unknown and stepping into a new role on some level. Yeah.
And for some people, if you're moving into something new and maybe you haven't done much of this before, as Gretchen has been on this path for quite a while, actually, that fear could be debilitating. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine doing that. And this is where the healing is so important, and to get really a view of something that is well, more soulful, to get your soul's perspective on it, which is healing. And so, just out of curiosity, Gretchen, how strong would you say that fear of the unknown is when you think about it?
Um, I'd say right now, tuning into it, it's about a 6 or a 7, and
Mm-hmm.
Out of
it's
10.
Yeah, out of 10.
out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do a lot of this. She's accustomed to how we measure. Yeah. Okay. And where do you feel that in your body?
I actually feel it over my heart and a little bit in my solar plexus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And of course, everything has meaning in the body. Everything inside of us and outside of us has meaning, interestingly. So if you get a sense of where it is, of course, the heart is that tender spot, our sense of self, and the solar plexus is our power center. So that would make sense with what she's saying. So now what we're going to do is go to the mountaintop and connect with the soul. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. So everyone, you can again close your eyes and just imagine starting in that place, the low spot, which is, as I mentioned, we often compare it to wallowing around in the mud, and you might be stuck to 1 degree or another. Just breathing in love and light from the universe around you. And as you exhale, letting go of any tension you might notice that's ready to release. Breathing in love and light. And releasing with the exhale. Another thing I like to do personally that I think is really valuable is asking any energy that is not your own to leave your energetic space, which includes that ball of light around you, your body, and your energy field. So just ask any energy you've picked up from other people, places, other times. Just ask it to lovingly go back where it came from. And what that does is creates more space for yourself to enter, for that love that is you to come into your field. And then similarly, we leave bits of ourselves in other times and places and with other people. So just ask for all of that energy to come back to you too. And you may notice doing that you feel more present in your body, which means there is more of you here, really. And with that, we want to breathe in lighter energy, again, remembering that we're breathing in light from the universe, from all the beings of light who are supporting us. And as you do that, just imagine that you can start drifting up to that beautiful, it can be a mystical, magical mountaintop, lofty mountaintop with a beautiful panoramic view of the world. So you're rising up. And then arriving there, there's a place for you. So Gretchen, what do you notice when you arrive on the mountaintop?
Actually, it's like early morning. It's the first thing I noticed was the words, "It's a new day," kind of came into my
Wow.
head. So I felt like I was seeing like a day dawning from the mountaintop.
Mm-hmm.
The sun was coming up and shining light all over everything, and how
Wow.
everything kind of gradually gets brighter and brighter with the sun rising.
Mm-hmm. And how does that feel?
It feels interesting. It feels good. It was interesting that the words "It's a new day" popped in my head. That wasn't
Yes, that's it makes
was
so much sense
unexpected.
with what you're, well, to me it makes sense with what you're experiencing,
Right.
right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
beautiful. It's beautiful. And then just gazing out over that expansive view, what do you notice there?
I can see really, really far across the landscape, and I hear birds singing, and I can feel the sunshine, and it feels like a brand new day, you
Mm-hmm.
know, a day that
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been lived yet. So it's an interesting and it's beautiful. I can see really, really far. There's no clouds. It's just a big bright blue
Mm-hmm.
sky, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's very
And
peaceful.
just then taking in that all of that energy and that sense of expansiveness, just breathing that love into your heart, allowing the love there to become even stronger, that you can feel the love, that energy of love radiating out from your heart all around you and into all the cells of your body. I sometimes imagine each one has a little heart in it. Just expanding out. And another nice thing doing this is you can allow your energy to expand out as far as it wants to go. So often we contract ourselves as if we have to fit into a little box when actually we're very expansive beings. And how does that feel, Gretchen? Opening to the love and that expansiveness.
It feels really, really big and spacious. When you said that, I actually felt myself get bigger and kind of rise up above the scene where I could see everything, the
Mm-hmm.
mountaintop and the valley, and it just felt like I was becoming part of the clouds or something. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And from that perspective, is there a message for you about this dream that you have of becoming more, having a bigger role as a teacher?
Yeah, I think I've been kind of hyper focusing on the the little details and not taking a step back and looking at the broader picture. And
Mm-hmm.
the broader picture is actually which gives me a lot of joy. And I think I've been kind of caught up in all the details because those are the things I can control right now. And that's what's known and what I can control. Whereas the bigger picture is still kind of part of the unknown. And so it really is showing me that I need to just step back a little bit. There's nothing I need to do right now, but just see the bigger picture and just expand out to see the other possibilities. Because I think I've been working so much with details that I feel like it's it's limiting me. It's not allowing me to expand out more.
Yeah. And you have to pardon the dogs. Something must have happened outside or something. Just merge that experience. And if you reflect more on that idea of it being a new day, does your soul have a message for that? It's beautiful, beautiful thought.
Um, It feels really joyful. It feels exciting. I'm sensing more feelings right now than a direct message. It feels really joyful. It feels like an exciting because it I'm excited about what could be, what could happen, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, where I've gone from kind of hyper focusing on details and worrying about what could happen to being in this more expansive state and noticing that, it's actually joyful and exciting to think about what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that for me is kind of one of my life lessons, and that's just to surrender to what is, just to surrender and trust
Mm-hmm.
um, that the universe, has something incredible planned for me.
Mm-hmm. Right. And if we look at that idea of what you see is what you get, then we want to be in that place of seeing that joyful future that we have.
It's such a contrast too from being here than being down in the mud, which is,
Mm-hmm.
being caught up in all that minutia of the details, and which I think can get very cyclic and kind of crazy making after a while. You just
Mm-hmm.
keep spinning around and around with that. And this just feels very freeing to be
Mm-hmm.
in this more expansive place on the mountaintop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, we do have to come back to Earth, but we can come back to Earth and maintain that all of the those higher kind of vibrations and feelings. So if you were to imagine that joy and that excitement as a color, what color might it be?
Actually, I saw it as like a really bright sunshiny yellow, like a sunflower.
That sounds beautiful. So, can you imagine then just surrounding yourself with that color and then sending that down all the way down back to where you started, back down on Earth, and coming back to Earth in the place where you are surrounded by that yellow color? And feeling grounded to the earth. So now imagining yourself back down on Earth with the realizations that you had from the mountaintop. How do you feel now about that fear of the unknown? Having
Feels
that
very,
trepidation.
yeah, it feels very small and like nothing to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the perspective has completely shifted. I feel like I'm standing in a big field of sunflowers now. That's
Wow.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So in the future, then you can send that energy out to the future, and just whenever you want to recall that state, just imagine yourself in that field of flowers surrounded by that golden yellow color. That's something that's called anchoring from NLP, which it is very powerful because she can actually do that in the future. Now, whenever she thinks of being in that creative place with what she's wanting to accomplish, she can surround herself with that, imagine that color in that field of flowers around her and recreate the same state. And of course, the more she does it, the more real it becomes. So does that feel complete, Gretchen?
Yeah, that feels good. That
Wonderful.
feels wonderful.
And of course, coming back, you can just be breathing in more active energy. And of course, we already grounded, just wanting to be grounded. Thank you. That was really beautiful.
Thank you. That was lovely. I love the sunflower images. See all the little heads nodding in the
Yeah.
breeze.
Yeah, it is interesting. They are very much like little beings, alive beings.
Little
Well,
happy
they are
being.
alive
Yeah.
beings, but
Yeah, little happy
right.
being. Right. Thank you so much. That was
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you. Thank you for volunteering and supporting us.
Great.
So that's the
Thank
mud to mountaintop and soul centering.
yeah, it's wonderful every time we do it. We've done it for many years and people love it. It's a great way to do it. It's an easy way to do it. I've done interviews with people who are pretty conventional and had them do the mud to mountaintop and they're able to do it. So it's very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So
We
what are
also
your
call it sometimes because mud to mountaintop sounds a little odd.
yeah.
We also call it the apex healing process because you go to the mountaintop, kind of an apex state, get into a higher state. And when you do
Right.
that, you can get a completely different view of things.
They're more of a professional description of it.
Right.
So your next steps, what might you do with this? How could you live your life in a more heart and soul-based way? You can do that, I'm sure you know. And I'm sure all of you watching this are doing it to some extent. And what I can say quite assuredly, you can do it a lot more. And we have a program, a way to do that. It's not the only way, but we know it's very good and it's been tested for over 30 years. And what it gives you is the support. As I mentioned, people, especially holistic people, are lacking support. They try to do it alone, and that's why it's so challenging. And they may not have the right tools and knowledge that really works and people who can assist them in doing that. And Jane mentioned earlier, we have these specific 3 interrelated courses in our holistic coaching and healing program that's coming up. And they're all working together. The next one at this time is focusing on the heart and soul of coaching and healing, which is a self-development way of learning more about yourself and relationships. And then there's also one about your purpose development, of course, on that. And they're all interrelated. and one on manifesting your dreams. And there are a lot of benefits to just the program. By being in a soul-centered place regularly with like-minded people and having help in an easy to way learn, because these classes are recorded like the one today on Zoom, so you can review them or if you miss them. And some of the benefits, just a few of them we noted here, is a more fulfilling life. And there's what people don't realize, Jane and I just were talking about it recently, the lifetime savings in personal health, physical and mental health. We've saved thousands of dollars of medical bills just because Jane mentioned the people in their class have helped them with weight issues, which leads to other physical problems and back issues and allergies and just anxieties and phobias, and it goes on. Some people start a new career or enhance their business or new business, and some people don't. Some people are not at all interested in that too. They just want the benefits, the greater quality of life, or just see where it's going to lead them, because it will, regardless, accelerate phenomenally your spiritual development at the rate that's right for you, by the way, because some people have been doing this for a long time in the program. Some are just starting out. They're all together in the mutual awakening, shared uh, flow state. I was going to say shared bliss state, maybe that too. So learning at your own rate with the tested tools, ones we've done in coaching holistically and spiritually, healing. We've developed some of our own spiritual kinesiology, holistic EFT. We've explored that, NLP, hypnotherapy, and more. We know it works. Incredible community. A lot of times people will take the whole program more than once, the 1 year program, for a small fee to review it, because the community, it's very hard to find a loving, supportive community. And there's a lot of other benefits too, as you might imagine. And I mentioned some of the tools that you'll be learning there. So Jane, did you want to mention anything about in general about the program?
Well, I guess just it is very fulfilling. People generally feel like they get more out of it than they were expecting. It certainly is a joy for us. Gretchen took the course. Maybe she'd
Yeah,
like to say
Gretchen
something.
is a graduate from the course. Would you like to share some of your experience?
Sure. I think the in-person with other people is just wonderful. I know lifelong friends that I still connect with weekly, and it's been a wonderful support system to have other people in the group and to be able to share in real time and to be able to practice the different techniques in the labs have been just absolutely invaluable for me. And I think that was one of the best ways for me to learn too, because I was able to um, really be able to practice it in real time with people and really get to see the effects of it and effects of all the different processes and healing processes that we use and the coaching processes that we use. And it's invaluable. And to me, it changed my entire life and my trajectory. And yeah, I mean, it's Jane said she gets excited to get up in the morning. It's what gets me up in the morning, being a coach. I love it. And
Right. Oh.
it really has just been a wonderful experience. And um, I looked at other programs before I took the holistic coaching and energy healing training, and there was nothing out there like this. And I'm not I'm not being paid by Philip or Jane to say this. This is, truly something from my heart. I looked at other programs and there's just nothing like this. It's invaluable to me. And I know I'll continue to use it and refer back to it for the rest of my life.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So at this time, it's starting again soon on June 13th, the spiritual coaching and healing self-development portion. And go to your next step would be to go to the description page if you're not there already at tinyurl.com/HOL coach. That's a shortened URL. Or just call us directly at Awakenings Institute here in California, 805-934-1238. And if you go to that description page of the program, the Spiritual Holistic Coaching Healing Certification Training, there's a way to set up a time to talk with us, because there's different payment plans and there's different ways of doing this. We work with people. So if they really want to to do it, they will. They'll find a way to do it. If this seems like your next step, we encourage you to follow your heart. We'd love to have you join us. Jane, anything else before we conclude for the class? The most important secret to spiritual holistic coaching and healing revealed?
I think I'd just say whatever you do, I would recommend connecting with your heart more often. I think we can all benefit from that, and see how it changes your life.
It will, and it's wonderful. Bye, everyone. Great being with you. See you next time.